our local drug and alcohol task force from the county and the local municipalities do a great job. So does any of the funding to them come from your office?
For your local drug and alcohol offices, that would be county funding and funding from the state. The task forces, and I can't speak off the top of my head to your county. I can get you the exact numbers, but task forces are made up typically of PSP, local police, our agents, and funding that comes from our office through the appropriation
But it's
that you
funding
provide.
coming from your office. Is any of that forfeiture money that you take in that goes down to, funnels down to the locals or the county level?
We have very strict restrictions on how we can use forfeiture funds, and they need to be obviously put back into drug-related issues, and from time to time, where appropriate, we do use them.
Okay. When I was looking at the budget here that you submitted, I saw you had mentioned you requested additional law enforcement, like 11 or 10 more agents, I believe. But when I'm looking at the numbers here, it looks like you have 25 positions that were authorized but not already filled.
Right.
Are you having trouble getting agents for that, or why aren't those filled? And then how are you going to fill 11 more if you didn't fill those 25?
Yeah, we're having no trouble. That's a snapshot in time. So what happens is when you have a vacancy, obviously you have to advertise the position, you got to interview, do all that, and that takes time, right? And so it's technically a vacancy during that. Then once we've identified someone for that position, which we have in the case of those vacancies, then they have to go through extensive background check process. So sometimes it could take 3 or 4 months to actually get someone onboarded through our process. And so that's why it may show up as a vacancy. But when I'm asking for additional funding for our complement, it's under the assumption that whatever might be showing up today as a vacancy is a filled position, and then we need to add to that. As I said before in response to the Representative's question, we're below where we were in 2004. And they didn't have a heroin crisis back then. So we are not having trouble filling those positions. It takes time. What you're seeing there is a snapshot in time, which this committee's asked for, and we're happy to provide. And we need additional bodies on top of the assumption that those vacancies would be filled.
Would be filled.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
20 years ago or more, we had heard about the drug routes from New York on Route 78 out to Reading. And I heard you say you've done a lot of arrests in that area. Is that what I heard you say before?
We did shut down a significant pipeline that came through there, yes.
Came through there. So do you feel there's still a pipeline coming through there? Is that still a major corridor that you're aware of? And is that something your agents handle, the local, the state police? Like, who handles that when they're coming through that area?
All I can tell you in this setting is we have a number of very active and ongoing investigations. Understand that the authority I have on these drug cases is to prosecute corrupt organizations, right? Okay. Not to prosecute a local drug dealer on a street corner, not suggesting that they're not important, but we prosecute corrupt organizations. So we go after big drug networks, big drug pipelines. And we have a number of very active and ongoing investigations, and I'd be compromising those investigations if I spoke about them in a public way to identify them or the regions in any way.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears and go back to when we were talking about seniors getting scammed.
Yeah.
I had a constituent in the district. He lost about $40,000 through scams, and they were very clever at how they did it. And even though he thought he wasn't giving them information, he said something like, well, I'm going to go contact my state representative. So the next day, they had someone call him, say that they were me, and told him to go get those, the credit cards, and that's what they're, the
gift cards.
The gift cards,
yeah.
Yes, thank you. But at the end of the day, when the police got involved, they followed the numbers. It was an out-of-the-country number, and they never did anything. They said there was no way to prosecute that. I mean, is that what happens when they use these, the cards, the numbers, they can't trace them? So is there something to do about that?
We run into that a lot. The typical way we run into that is something known as the Jamaican lottery scam, where a senior will be called, told that they won the Jamaican lottery, and all they have to do is prepay their taxes, and then their winnings will be sent to them. We had a case of a guy in Manheim Township who I think lost, his life savings. He lost a couple $100,000 in monies that he prepaid in these scams. Now, oftentimes what we're able to do is arrest the person known as the money mule, right? The person who's collecting that money for the person who tends to be overseas. About a year ago, we arrested a money mule in one of these scams in Pittsburgh. We didn't give up, though. We partnered with our federal partners who, notwithstanding the insinuation of one of the earlier questions, we work incredibly well with our federal partners, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office, others. We worked with them to actually track this person down overseas and extradite them to the United States, where they're now being prosecuted in the Western District of Pennsylvania under federal law because their laws are stronger on this than state laws. So we essentially transferred the case over to our federal partners. So we will follow the lead wherever we can, even if it involves going overseas, and oftentimes partnering with federal officials enables us to do that work, and we've had some success in that area. So the first step is trying to protect that local senior. You and Representative McCarter and others have talked about. The second step is trying to shut off that operation that exists in our Commonwealth or in the United States. And then the third step, if necessary, is going overseas to try and shut down the whole operation.